What if the reason you still feel tired has nothing to do with sleep? You finally get a moment to rest. No alarms pulling you out of bed. No deadlines chasing you. No pressure hanging over your head. You allow yourself to slow down, to breathe, to exist without urgency. Maybe you sleep longer than usual. Maybe you spend the day doing absolutely nothing. On the surface, it feels like exactly what you needed. But then something strange happens. You wake up and you're still tired. Not just physically tired, but mentally heavy. Emotionally drained. You feel disconnected, irritable, and strangely empty. It's confusing because by all logic, you should feel better. You rested. You slept. You did everything people say you're supposed to do when you're exhausted. So why does it feel like nothing changed? This is where most people misunderstand what their body and mind are trying to tell them. Because not all tiredness is the same. And more importantly, not all tiredness can be fixed with rest. There are two very different types of exhaustion: physical fatigue and emotional burnout. And if you don't understand the difference, you'll keep trying to solve the wrong problem. Physical fatigue is straightforward. It happens when your body has been pushed beyond its limits. Maybe you worked long hours, exercised intensely, or didn't sleep enough. In this case, your body is simply asking for recovery. When you rest, your muscles repair themselves, your energy levels are restored, and your system resets. Sleep works perfectly here because the problem is physical. But emotional burnout is something entirely different. It doesn't come from using your body too much. It comes from carrying too much for too long. It builds slowly, often unnoticed, until it reaches a point where your mind can no longer keep up. And when that happens, rest alone is not enough. Burnout is not just about feeling tired. It's about feeling detached from yourself. It's when things that used to matter no longer excite you. It's when even small tasks feel overwhelming. It's when you start to feel like you're just going through the motions, disconnected from your own life. According to global health research, burnout is caused by chronic stress that hasn't been properly managed. And it shows up in three major ways: deep exhaustion, a growing sense of negativity or detachment, and a noticeable drop in your ability to function effectively. That means burnout is not laziness. It's not weakness. It's not a lack of discipline. It is a real psychological condition with real biological effects on your body. And to understand why rest doesn't fix it, you need to look deeper into how your body handles stress. Inside your body, there is a system designed to protect you from danger. It's often called the stress response system. When you face a challenge or a threat, this system activates and releases a hormone called cortisol. This hormone helps you stay alert, focused, and ready to respond. In short bursts, this is incredibly useful. It helps you perform under pressure. It sharpens your awareness. It prepares you to act. But the problem begins when the stress never stops. When your mind is constantly dealing with pressure, expectations, emotional tension, or unresolved problems, this system stays active. It doesn't get a chance to shut down. And over time, that constant activation starts to weigh you down. This is where something called allostatic load comes into play. It's a term used to describe the long-term strain placed on your body when stress becomes chronic. Instead of recovering, your system stays in survival mode. Your energy gets drained not from physical effort, but from constant mental and emotional tension. And this is why sleep alone doesn't fix burnout. Because the problem is that your body is tired. The problem is that your system is overloaded. Think of your mind like a smartphone. When your battery is low, you plug it in and recharge it. That's what sleep does. It restores your energy. But imagine your phone has dozens of apps running in the background. Even if the battery reaches 100%, it starts draining again almost immediately. Why? Because those background processes are still consuming power. That's what burnout looks like. Those background apps are the things constantly running in your mind. The worries you haven't resolved. The expectations you feel pressured to meet. The emotions you keep suppressing. The relationships that drain you. The fear of disappointing others. The pressure to always be on. Even when you're resting, those processes don't stop. So you wake up tired, not because you didn't rest, but because your mind never did. And this is where the real shift in understanding needs to happen. If your exhaustion is emotional, then your recovery must also be emotional. Most people think recovery is about doing less, taking a break, sleeping more, stepping away for a while. And while those things can help, they don't address the core issue of burnout. Because burnout is not just about being overworked. It's about being overwhelmed at a deeper level. The first truth you need to understand is this: burnout is a stress cycle problem, not a sleep problem. Your nervous system needs evidence that it is safe to relax. Not just logically, but physically. It needs to feel that the threat is over. And that feeling doesn't come from rest alone. It comes from change. For example, imagine you're constantly saying yes to things you don't want to do. You take on more responsibilities than you can handle. You stretch yourself thin trying to meet expectations. Even if you take a day off, your system still remembers that pressure. It knows that the moment you return, everything will still be waiting for you. So it stays on alert. Real recovery begins when you start sending a different message to your nervous system. When you set boundaries, when you say no without guilt, when you allow yourself to stop without feeling like you're falling behind. These actions may seem small, but they are powerful. They tell your brain that it's safe to let go. The second truth is even more uncomfortable. A lot of emotional exhaustion doesn't come from what you do. It comes from what you pretend. Pretending you're okay when you're not. Pretending you can handle more than you actually can. Pretending you don't need help. Pretending you're not affected by things that deeply impact you. Every time you do this, you create something called emotional debt. And just like financial debt, it builds over time. At first, it's manageable, but eventually it becomes overwhelming. You start to feel numb, disconnected, drained in a way that rest can't fix. Because you're not just tired from doing too much. You're tired from hiding too much. This is why emotional honesty is essential for recovery. Not necessarily with everyone, but at least with yourself. Acknowledging what you feel. Admitting when something is too much. Allowing yourself to experience emotions instead of suppressing them. These are not signs of weakness. They are necessary steps toward healing. Another truth that many people overlook is the role of human connection. We often try to recover in isolation. We withdraw. We spend time alone. We assume that being by ourselves will help us recharge. And sometimes it does. But long-term recovery requires connection. Because humans are not designed to process stress alone. When you share your thoughts with someone who understands you, your nervous system begins to calm down. You feel seen. You feel supported. And that alone can reduce the weight you've been carrying. It's not about having a large circle. It's about having genuine connection. One honest conversation can do more for your recovery than hours of rest. And then comes the hardest truth of all. You cannot recover in the same environment that is draining you. If your daily life continues to overwhelm you, no amount of rest will fix it. Because you're constantly returning to the same source of stress. This doesn't mean you need to change everything overnight. But something has to shift. It could be your boundaries, your workload, your relationships, your expectations of yourself. Because recovery is not just about resting more. It's about reducing what is draining you. Now that you understand why rest alone isn't enough, the next question becomes, what does real recovery actually look like? It starts with recognizing that recovery is multi-layered. The first layer is physical rest. This is still important. Your body needs sleep. It needs time to repair and restore itself. But this is only the foundation. The second layer is nervous system recovery. This involves activities that signal safety to your body. Simple things like deep breathing, walking in nature, getting sunlight, or sitting in silence. These moments allow your system to shift out of survival mode and into a state of calm. The third layer is emotional release. This is where you allow yourself to process what you've been holding. It could be through journaling, talking to someone, or even sitting with your thoughts without distraction. The goal is not to fix everything, but to stop suppressing everything. The fourth layer is mental detachment. Your brain needs time where it's not solving problems, not planning, not worrying. Just being. This is difficult in a world that constantly demands productivity, but it is essential. The fifth layer is restoring a sense of control. Burnout often makes you feel powerless, like you're being pulled in every direction. Regaining control doesn't require big changes. Even small decisions, like choosing when to stop working or setting limits on your time, can rebuild that sense of autonomy. And finally, the sixth layer is meaning. Burnout disconnects you from purpose. It makes everything feel empty. Recovery involves reconnecting with what matters to you, or even redefining what that is. Because without meaning, rest feels empty. As you reflect on your own exhaustion, ask yourself deeper questions. Are you physically tired or emotionally overwhelmed? Do you need more sleep or do you need support? Do you need rest or do you need change? These questions matter because they shift how you respond to your own needs. And this isn't just a personal issue. Emotional burnout affects productivity, creativity, and decision-making on a global scale. It impacts workplaces, relationships, and entire systems. When people are burned out, they don't perform at their best. They don't think clearly. They don't feel motivated. So understanding burnout is not just about feeling better. It's about functioning better in every area of life. At the end of the day, the message is simple but powerful. Rest can restore your body, but truth restores your life. If your exhaustion is emotional, then your recovery must go deeper than sleep. It must involve honesty, connection, boundaries, and meaningful change. Because sometimes the reason you're still tired is not because you haven't rested enough. It's because you haven't healed what's actually draining you. If this opened your eyes, make sure you like the video. Share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more insights that help you understand your mind and take back control.